Hello everyone and welcome back to Dota 2. This is going to be the day 2 video where we're going to go over a little bit about how the lanes work so that you can kind of understand what's happening there. Now we're back in the demo mode real quick with my boy Tiny, and we're just going to show off vision mechanics. Now, there are high grounds and low grounds in Dota 2, and basically when you're on the low ground you can't see up the high ground. I have this tower giving me some vision out to here, but my hero, he can't see what's going on right here. In order to see uphill, he has to walk uphill and then he can see. Now this works for enemy heroes as well, of course. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use an observer ward, and when we place it here it gives us vision in this whole blue area. Lets us see up the high ground. Now, with the high grounds, there's something that's very useful to note. First off, because you're going into a high ground blind and you don't know what's up here, enemy heroes could be up here, or they could have vision of their own and they could just see you coming. So going into high grounds is always a disadvantage. There's something else about high grounds that is an additional disadvantage. Over here, I've got a Wind Ranger bot. I don't know why the name is in, I'm assuming that's Chinese. But we've got an observer ward for her. We're going to place it on the high ground. Now we can't see it because observer wards are invisible. Place this down, lets us see it. And what I'm going to show you here is, as the Wind Ranger attacks me, some of her attacks, you will see this little evade pop up. When you are attacking uphill, you have a 50% chance to miss your attack. So, not only is there a vision disadvantage going up a hill, but you also have a chance to miss. I explain this because in order to go over the lanes and why certain lanes are certain ways or so on and so forth, this ends up being a pretty huge factor in determining that. So if the Tiny over here, if he goes to this high ground, we place the observer ward over here. Its vision should not carry on over to here. Yes, right here, the Wind Ranger cannot see me. She doesn't have anything giving. Her tower gives her vision out to about here, but she can't see me. I'm giving her an attack command. She can't do it because she can't see me. If she tries to walk up here, I blow her up. Anyway, so with that in mind, let's hop out of the demo mode. So with that in mind, let's go take a look at all three of the lanes in Dota 2. Alright, so here we are in a completely empty practice lobby, just so that we can show off and take a look at what's happening on these lanes. So we're going to start with the mid lane, because this one, probably the easiest to explain. Now normally in Dota 2, the mid lane is a 1v1, and the reason for this is pretty simple. It's extremely hard for most heroes to be aggressive in this lane. The creeps generally meet here. The distance from one tower's range to the other tower's range is this far. It's really not very much at all, and you can see that with the nighttime vision, even if I'm standing on the absolute edge of my cliff, I cannot see the high ground over here. So this high ground is very dangerous. Now, on both sides, we have high ground entrances here and here, next to this rune spawn. We have high ground entrances where the creeps meet, and we have high ground entrances here and here, next to this rune spawn. The reason that this is important, and the reason we went over the vision beforehand, is because if you want to play aggressive against this mid, you have to walk up this high ground, this high ground, this high ground. Or you have to come all the way around, even deeper through enemy territory, just to get a flanking position on the mid. Now, there's still a full lane of creeps here, so there's just as many creeps in the top lane, in the mid lane, and in the bot lane, so there's still resources to acquire here. But for the most part, what you're going to want is a hero that can kill this wave and just play safe. Or take this tower. That's really what you want out of the mid lane. Because it is so difficult to play aggressive, if I'm back here, and all I do is just blow up this wave, And there's 2 enemy heroes here. What's going to happen is I'm going to level up substantially faster than them. And if they want to gank me, they have to come up these high grounds to run at me, which is very dangerous. At the same time, I get to be under my tower. Now, just to point out, towers, they hit pretty hard. They hit for 90 damage per attack, and they have a reduction for some reason. So they hit for about 45 damage. Anyway, not super important. What's important is that they give an aura called Tower Protection. Tower Protection has different strengths. The deeper you get into your base, the stronger the Tower Protection buff is. But here, it is 3 armor and 1 additional health regen. Now my hero, Tiny Boy here, has 0 armor. So if I walk right over here, I have 0% physical damage reduction. If I walk right here, I have 15% physical damage reduction and an additional point of health regen. That makes it very hard to kill any hero who's playing in this area. So, what you're going to see is pretty typically a 1v1 mid between 2 heroes that can kill the wave and then not die. That's pretty much it. That's their objective for the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game, is to just farm this wave without dying. Now let's take a walk over to the top lane. First thing I'm going to point out is that the top lane and the bottom lane are kind of mirrored, although not exactly. It's close enough that their roles are the same for both teams. Creeps typically meet right about here. If nothing is interfering, when the creeps first spawn, they will walk and they will meet here. This is very close to this tower, and it's pretty far away from this tower. That makes the first wave difficult to farm safely for this team. It also makes it very safe for this team. Typically, you're going to have a bit of a role breakdown. We'll be going over roles in another video. But to start with, this is Radiance Offlane. Why do I say Radiant? Because the green team is called the Radiant. Radiance Ancient. This one is Dire's Ancient. So the red team is the Dire, the green team is the Radiant. This is generally referred to as Radiance Offlane and Dire's safe lane, or just the top lane. The reason it's called the safe lane for Dire is because of a combination of choke points and high grounds. For this team, you have safe approach from here, 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 this high ground. You have a high ground here. You have a choke point kind of here-ish. This is the only area that's safe, really, for the Radiant in this lane. Everywhere else, just because of how much natural control the Dire has here, all of this space is the Dire's natural space. It's also worth pointing out that you can cut trees, and we'll show that off in a minute. But for now, we're gonna move on, and we're just really quickly gonna cover something that's called stacking and something that's called pulling. This is something that a support would typically do. So the Dire support would come over here, hit those creeps at 53, 54, walk this way or this way or this way. And then when these creeps have walked far enough that they are no longer in the spawn box, this yellow box, if these creeps are not in this yellow box, when a minute turns over, so when it became 5 minutes, another creep camp will spawn. Now there are 6 creeps here. So the reason I point out that this whole area here is well controlled by the Dire is because the support can do this pretty reliably and pretty safely. So what they're going to do is they're going to stack this creep camp, and then they're going to aggro this creep camp, and they're going to bring it towards their creep wave. And then this creep camp is going to kill the creep wave. Now, the reason that this is important is because we've already gone over that the early game is a competition for both teams to acquire resources. And me being a Radiant hero, I get resources, I get gold, and I get XP for killing these dire creeps. Meanwhile, the dire gets nothing when those creeps die. So, this is a pretty safe maneuver for a hero on the dire's side to deny an entire wave of XP and gold to the Radiant heroes. This makes this lane very easy to gain an economic advantage in, which is why it's generally referred to as the safe lane. It's the safe lane to farm. It's where you put your carry, your hero who's going to acquire gold, and we'll get into the roles later. But the point is, you're going to have a support here, and you're going to have a hero that is core to your team here. Generally referred to as a core, sometimes also called a carry. That's who you're going to have here. The support can gain a huge economic advantage by pulling to this creep camp to deny wave after wave of XP and gold to the heroes in the Radiance Offlane. This is going to pretty reliably give them an advantage here, but there's another advantage that's worth talking about. Now, you might notice that there is a creep camp over here, and you might say, can't the Radiant do something very similar? And the answer is yes. They can do, roughly speaking, the exact same thing. They can hit those creeps, they can bring them over here, they can aggro their wave, and they can pull to here. The difference is, look at where I am relative to my tower. I have one retreat path. This guy, he can go through, there's a path through these trees. He can go here, he can go here, he can go here. He can go anywhere. Me, in this position, they can attack me from here, from here, from here, or from here. I'm extremely vulnerable in this position, whereas the support over here is really not very vulnerable from his position. The other thing that's worth noting is that the support can pull this camp directly up, and he can also pull it to over here. So I have this Quelling Blade so I can chop some trees. You're going to bring tangos to pretty much every single lane, so it's not unreasonable that you could chop the tree of your choice to make yourself a little bit of a path to pull creeps how you want to. So yeah, you'd pull like that. The support for the dire has the ability to stack and pull this camp, as well as stack and pull this camp. Not to mention, the only way to contest this whole jungle area is to walk through either this location, or this location, which is extremely dangerous for Radiant heroes to do. Similarly, we have the bottom lane. Sometimes it's going to be called the Radiance safe lane. It's also going to be the Dire's off lane. The creeps meet right here when nothing interferes with them, directly outside of tower range. It's actually so close that melee heroes can stand in the aura buff for tower protection whilst going for last hits, giving me that huge bonus to armor as well as the additional health regeneration. Over here, we have a small camp that the support can pull or stack and pull. We have the large camp that the support can also pull. The pull paths for this camp, by the way, you can cut a tree here and you could pull it straight down. You can pull it this way. You can pull it this way. And you can cut this tree and you can pull it this way. This gives the support 2 camps over here that they can pull. Likewise, we see a very similar thing mirrored. This area is all the Radiance Jungle. They have this high ground, they have this high ground, they have this choke point, and then they have this bunch of trees here. So this whole area is very naturally the Radiance area to control. Something else that's worth noting, on both sides of the map, pretty much mirrored, there are these cliffs with these little eye symbols. You can place wards there. Now the cool thing about placing a ward here is that it's technically up this high ground, which actually gives it vision over the trees. So if I go over here and I just place a ward, if I place an observer ward right here, it can't see through any of these trees. If I cut the trees, all of a sudden it can see a little hole. So by putting it up on this cliff, it gains the ability to watch this high ground and this high ground over all of the trees. And that's very advantageous to the Radiant, making it much easier for them to control this whole area. Now it's a little obvious, but that's okay. The enemy would easily suspect that you have vision here because it's very useful to have vision here. So, what does this mean? Well, what this means is that both teams are going to want a hero that scales very well off of golds to be farming in their safe lane. They're going to want a hero that can clear waves and stay safe early on their own in the mid lane. They're going to want a hero over here, or a couple of heroes that are okay not getting very much farm, but just trying to contest and survive in the off lane. And they're going to want a support to help out the carry in this lane, making sure that they get to farm by going for pulls and a couple of other things that we'll get into later. This is the current meta in Dota 2. Just so that everyone is aware, sometimes the meta shifts. Changes to the map can make it so that certain lanes are safer or more dangerous to farm, and that usually has an impact on the pace of the game. Right now, with it being very difficult to actually gank the mid laner, it's a pretty good patch for mid laners to farm instead of playing highly aggressive all over the map. And there did used to be a patch where you would only stick one hero in the off lane because it was just so difficult to reliably get farm out of that lane that you kind of just shoved a hero there to soak XP and defend the tower. But this all has to do with changes to the map and changes to certain heroes. But this should give you a pretty basic understanding of the roles as it pertains to Dota 2. To give you the exact terms, the position 1 is going to be the carry. The position 2 is going to be your mid laner. The position 3 is going to be your off laner. The 4 is going to be your off laner's pseudo support. And the 5 is going to be your hard support. Now, the reason that we sort of talk about positions and whatnot actually has to do with farm priority after the laning stage. So, in the laning stage, doesn't really matter. You have a core farming mid, you have a core farming bot, you have a core farming or trying to farm your off lane. And then after the laning stage, your carry, your position 1, has priority. If he wants to farm this whole area of the jungle, that's his to farm. If he wants to farm this lane, it's his to farm. If he wants to farm bottom for whatever reason, it's still his to farm. He gets to pick where he farms. The position 2 is the second most important hero to get farm. He's going to farm wherever he wants to, so long as he's not contesting the carry. The position 3, he gets kind of the short end of the stick. He has to go wherever's left, if there is indeed anywhere left. He may not get to farm. That is entirely possible. There are some games where you simply do not get to farm. I'm going to showcase this by switching to another hero in the demo mode who's very good at farming. And I'm going to show you just how much of the farm on the map I can clear with that hero. Just so that it makes more sense why some heroes simply won't get the chance to farm despite being a core on your team. Alright, so let's go in here real quick. I'm going to turn cheats on just so that we can accelerate the first pretty fair portion of the game. Now, I'm going to be using Anti-Mage for this demonstration. Anti-Mage is a pretty standard hero. Most people are very familiar with exactly what he does. He pretty much... There's 2 builds out for him right now, but the classical one is for this hero to rush a Battle Fury, which costs about this much gold. So we're just going to look at this item. I'm going to send that out. And Anti-Mage is pretty much going to rush these two items. Alright, everyone. So it took me a minute to figure out exactly what in the hell was going on. I kept trying to do takes of this. And as you can see, I already have 500 last hits. Turns out the pause button for Dota 2 is also the pause button for my recording software. Now, this is as you may guess, this has caused an immense amount of difficulty in actually recording this. So, pardon that. Anyway, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to attempt to clear as much of my safe farm as I can. I'm not going to go to the... I'm only going to go to the waves if they're actually there, but other than that, I'm just going to efficiently farm the jungle with this Anti-Mage hero.
Not time yet. I'm not ready. I go.
Now, any ridiculously fast farming core can do stuff like this, and this is where the farming priority starts coming into play. Given that Anti-Mage can clear the entirety of his side of the map in a minute, the question is, who gets to farm whatever's left? And the answer is your mid hero. Your mid hero gets to farm whatever's left. If the offlane wants farm, he's going to have to start pressuring one side of the map. He's going to have to pick a lane, and he's going to have to pressure it, and he's going to have to take farm from the enemy jungle. Now, your carry also wants to farm aggressively. The reason I show you this farming pattern is just to showcase that if your carry, or if a strong core wanted to, there would be no space left on the map. I know that it's good carry practice to say go over here and be like, ooh, looky looky, and take this farm over here. Anyways, let's hop right back over into demo mode and finish out this video. Alright, here we are back in the demo mode. Hopefully, in this video, it's just a quick recap. We covered a little bit about high ground vision. We looked at the setup of the different lanes to highlight their strengths and weaknesses and talk a little bit about how much control each side has over it. And we used that to sort of set up the basis for understanding the farm priority system as well as the different roles in the game. Now that's all a lot to cover, and there's a whole bunch more to know, and it's a little bit scattered. One of the things that's kind of difficult about setting up these videos is trying to decide what order to teach the fundamentals in. So hopefully in the next video we're going to do a lot more to do with vision, wards, visibility, invisibility, smokes, all that sort of stuff. And we're going to talk about the sort of advantages that vision can give you and get into a little bit of some strategy that happens as well as that. I do intend to do some roles, so I'll talk about some beginner-friendly heroes in some future videos. But for now, that's probably, we've covered a lot today. It's probably a good place to leave it. If you have enjoyed this video or found it useful, or you know someone who's found it useful, please consider leaving a like, maybe a comment. Feel free to ask any questions if you have those as well. And I'm a small channel. The best thing you can do to help me out is to share my videos and spread the word about them. So anyways, if you have enjoyed, then thank you very much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon with a day 3 episode having to do with vision and things of that nature.